Hey, this is Mr. V. I'm doing a book review today for Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Before I get into my book review, I want you guys to know that I do a spoiler-free book review, so if you see me looking down sometimes, I just have some notes, so I try not to give any spoilers away. So let's get into the book review for Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So, the basic premise for this is set in a futuristic world state that is inhabited by genetically modified citizens. And basically the people from that city, the leaders of that city, they raise them from the time they're a little kid. They create them in a lab, and then they just raise them. They tell them how to think. They tell them different sleeping things. They tell them a lot of things, and they try to genetically alter different people, and they have a hierarchy system in there, and I think there's 5 different classes in that hierarchy system. So that's the basic premise for the book. Now, you should know that I feel that this is a book that is geared towards adults. I feel you should be an adult before reading this book because they do have a lot of sex and a lot of drugs in the book. So that's why I feel you should be an adult. But it is surprising they do that considering this was released in 1932. But let's get into the official review now. So, I thought this was a very fun book. And I think it was fun just from the beginning in that the author, he sets the tone from like page 1 or even like definitely after the first chapter. You basically know what's happening. Like you don't, you know the general of what's happening, but you have so much wonder. There's many questions that are in your mind when you're reading even the first chapter, because you do wonder, like, what year is it? Who are these people? Are they even on Earth? You wonder things like that. And you wonder why they're doing this. There's so many thoughts that are going through your head. And I thought that was really cool because it was just a lot of fun. And I thought he had a great plot, because they are creating humans. And it's basically they're creating humans and they're trying to like alter them, and they're like raising them. They're creating them in a lab and they're like altering them. They have different types of humans they create, and they try to alter them based on different methods they use while raising them. Like there is no mom and dad type of thing. And it's just very interesting because they want to have the people that will be the workers, the ones that will be the scientists, the ones that will be the higher ups. They want to have all those things. And that's why it's a very interesting thing, because they do set a hierarchy system. And as I said, like the people that run this town, they basically want to create everything for them, just absolutely everything, and they want to control them as well. And it's not that they can't leave that city. This is based in London, and it's not they can't leave London. They need to get a special pass, but it's like they just want to create everything. So, I just thought that it was a great plot because it feels really creepy. Like, even though it's like they're supposed to do these nice things, it is pretty scary thinking of it. And he does a great job of making it feel creepy. It almost felt like a Twilight Zone type of episode. And I also thought that the author, he had many interesting themes throughout the whole book. I won't get in depth with many of them, but like, it's interesting because while these are humans that are created in a lab and they're raised by these in these facilities, they still have certain just human traits, like just basic human traits that the people raising them like can't control. Like they still have people that feel superiority, or there's condescending people, there's judgmental people, there's addiction problems, and there's still the people that are gossiping and things like that, and they just pick up basic human traits that like they aren't taught, and that brings you to that aspect of nature versus nurture, which is always discussed in public, and I thought that was really cool, and it was kind of throughout the book, and he did many things like that throughout the book, so that was really cool. Now, some of the things I did not like about the book. One thing was there was a lot to take in the beginning. There was a lot. There was a lot of information, and I just had to take an overview because of how much information they were throwing at you. I said he sets the scene immediately, but he throws a lot of information at you in the beginning. So I felt it was a lot to take in the beginning, but I was able to do it by just taking a general overview. And another thing I didn't like was that some parts he kind of jumped around. It felt a little weird, like when he was trying to like have two separate scenes and he would like jump back and forth between the scenes. And when he was doing that, it would almost be like somewhat confusing. It's stuff that can work on like a TV show when, you know, they show the friends talking at different scenes, but in a book it's much harder to do that. So at points it was getting a little confusing, and there were some other areas that was a little confusing. I can't elaborate further than that, but there were some areas in the book that were a little confusing. But my biggest complaint for the book was that some parts do drag. Some parts definitely drag, and they drag in that the stuff that some of the areas, like when you're reading it, it just feels meaningless. Like literally when you're reading it, you're like, this feels completely meaningless. And even the areas that do mean something, they just feel too drawn out. And, you know, that was something I didn't like because it became close to boring at times. And that's what was very difficult. That was my biggest criticism of the book, is that sometimes it was just too dry, and it was just, yeah, that's, I can't say why other than just that. Now, as for the end, you know, I judge an end by many things. I like it, like if you like the end overall, but also does it wrap everything up? I don't like having many loose ends type of thing. And overall, I felt this was a good end. It was a good overall end because he did wrap everything up. And it was kind of a crazy end. It was definitely a crazy end because it makes you think a lot. It makes you think, and those are the type of ends I really like, where it makes you think, and it was a lot of fun. The only thing is I thought the last chapter was a little weird, but there were still areas in the last chapter that were good. You know, so that's why I'd say overall I thought the end was pretty good. And you know, that's why I thought this was a pretty good overall book. Because, you know, even like the way it was written, I thought he did a great job writing it. Like, it was well written because he sets the scenes very well. I think he sets the proper scenes, but it's like he sets the scenes that like it feels creepy despite being a nice area. Like, this facility is nice, but it like has that creepiness feel. And you can like picture the areas described, and that's why you know it's supposed to be a nice facility, yet it just feels creepy. And he just does a great job of writing it in that fashion. And I also felt the book had a very smooth flow. Just from one chapter to the next was very smooth, with the exception of the areas that would jump around a bit. It was pretty smooth, and that you just wanted to keep reading it, you know. And that was a big aspect, is that you wanted to keep reading it. And I also thought for his characters, I think he had definitely a good set of characters, a very interesting set of characters. He did a decent character development, but that he had interesting characters because they all had their different personalities. They're modified in the lab and all of that, yet they still had their personalities, and they were all different, and they just were, it was pretty fun overall, you know, for the characters. So I thought he did a great job with that. But you know, overall, I had a lot of fun with this book because I just thought it had a great theme, like, and a great plot, and this is a very thought-provoking book. There were many things in the book that was thought-provoking, and I'd say the biggest one is, can you create true happiness or love? And can you do that in a lab? And, you know, that's why there's just a lot of fun questions you have like that throughout the book. But let me give it my official rating right now. So I always rate my books on a scale of 0 to 10, with a 0 being awful, a 5 is average, and a 10 is phenomenal. If it gets anywhere near 10, you should put that on your reading list because I'm a very tough critic, and a 5 is average, so it's hard to even move up a little bit. So for Brave New World, I'm going to rate this book a 6.5 because I thought this was, and that's pretty good in my rating system. I thought that this was a lot of fun read. It was a great plot. It was well written, and there was many fun scenes. The only downfalls were that like sometimes it did start to drag, and in the middle it did become a little boring at times, and it was getting close to that. But overall, you know, I still feel this deserves a 6.5, and I recommend that you guys go out and read this book at some point. If you guys have any questions, comments, disagreements, anything, you know, please post it in the comment section below. You know, I hope you click the subscribe button. I always upload multiple different book reviews. But thank you for watching my book review today. This is Mr. V. Go enjoy reading.